All right, first of all, if you were on the retreat and you are not prepared for the test tomorrow, that's okay. I just ask that you take it either Wednesday morning or Thursday afternoon. I'd like it done before Thanksgiving, just because nobody wants to take anything after. Okay, is everyone listening to me? Everyone paying attention? Huh? Wednesday or morning would be with Miss Glick and afternoon with me. Your test tomorrow. Is everyone listening to me? Okay, is everyone listening and paying attention? There's 16 multiple choice questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have 16 multiple choice questions, all right? You guys are going to have the whole class period to do it. That doesn't mean it's any easier. I personally think multiple choice tests can be harder, but it kind of takes a little bit of the stress of some things off. All right, so I want to go through this whole review, just kind of remind ourselves little things. Yeah.
So are we graphing anything?
No, you don't have to, no.
So we don't have, okay, so no like the piecewise questions?
You guys are going to have 16 multiple choice questions. All right, you're going to have to answer them, and you're going to have to pick the correct answer, so you're going to have to pay attention to stuff. But you're going to have questions about, like, domain. Think about what causes domain issues, right? If there's a variable in the denominator, if there's a variable underneath the square root, or if it's the double whammy, variable in the denominator underneath the square root. Right? You guys remember that? If you have something like this, and number 3, why do we only have to worry about the denominator? Because there's an x there. Yeah, but there's an x in the numerator. It's not underneath the square root. Can your numerator be 0? Yes. If you square a number and subtract something, it could be a negative. That's fine. But it's not underneath the square root. So you only have to worry about your denominator there. What about if you have something like this? Where do I have to worry about? Just the denominator, right? I don't have a radical or anything. So if I were to set this, right, 4x squared plus 9 cannot be 0. I move the 9 over, correct? 4x squared cannot be negative 9. Divide both sides by 4. You guys with me? X squared cannot be negative 9/4. And then I take what? When I take the square root, what kind of a number do I get here? I get imaginary. So what does that tell me about my domain? It could be all reals, right? There's nothing that could make your denominator 0. Because why? This is squared and you're adding. Is there an issue in this one here? Where's the only issue I have in this little example? The denominator, right? So I would x squared minus 100 cannot be 0. So x squared cannot be, cannot be 100. Take the, so x can't be what? Plus or minus 10, right? Let's not forget the plus or minus. Yeah, it's going to be a multiple choice. So some of them might say interval notation. Some of them might say, okay. So you would say it could be anything. Good question. So here's 0, here's negative 10, here's positive 10, right? So it could be anything in the world except for those two numbers. So how would you tell me that? Negative infinity to negative 10. Good. Does it include negative 10? No. So how do we say it doesn't include? Parentheses. Then what? U. Good. Negative 10 to positive 10. U, right? 10 to infinity. Yep. Correct, because we're talking about real values. Mm-hmm. Good. All right, let's look at this. What's the problem in number 4? Square root. So I have to worry about both of those, don't I? Because we're dealing with real values for x. That means we cannot get imaginaries. So notice, since there is a radical with a variable underneath, the numerator we set greater than or equal to, because you can take the square root to 0, yeah? The denominator is just greater than, because the denominator cannot become what? 0. So notice what we did here. We graphed them both, correct? And then what is our answer? The part that does what? Overlaps. Okay, good. Good. I just want to make sure we hit on that. Okay, you guys okay with that? All right, let's keep talking. I just want to talk through each one of these just in case we have any questions. All right, graph the function, find domain and range. Alexa just asked, are we going to have to graph? No. It's multiple choice. You're going to have to pick the correct graph. What I need you guys to be able to do, honestly, is to look at an equation and tell me what's going on. I need you to tell me, okay, what's going on? What transformations are occurring? Anything that is inside, when I say inside of a parenthesis, inside of an absolute value, underneath a radical, anything that's inside with the x, what does that deal with? Up and down or left and right? Left and right. Is it exactly what we think or it's the opposite of what we think? Opposite, good. All right, look at the end here. If I'm adding or subtracting to my function at the end, where does that move my graph? Up or down. If you had this, like 3 plus x minus 1 squared, is this still a vertical shift? Yes, it's just in the front. But I'm not multiplying. Do you see that plus sign? That's adding it. All right, what about the differences of our reflections? Remember, if we're out in front, we reflect over what? X. If it's inside, it reflects over the... Okay, good. Good. I mean, if we get something like this wrong, I might cry. I just might cry. How do you find x and y intercepts, guys? You plug in 0, right? So if you find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y. To find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. Okay? I was going to just make one up, but... All right, find the slope. How do we find slope? y2 minus y1. Okay, good. Guys, really, really important here. Look at 13 and 14. If this is still confusing you, 13, 14, and 15, if this is still confusing you, draw a picture. Right? If I had, look, what, in number 14, what letter am I missing? X. If there is no x, your slope is going to be 0. But if you were to go ahead and solve this, look, I solved this, I got y by itself. Plot that point. Where is 13 over 2? It's on the y-axis, and when you draw your line through it, that's where you get your 0 from. If you have just an x, what kind of a line is x only going to make? A vertical. Look, if you solve this, a very common mistake that's made a lot. You guys will say, okay, 3x equals what? Well, if I move 2 over, it becomes 9, right? Divide, so I get x equals 3. And you'll tell me the slope is 3. Is the 3 in front of the x? No. X is on one side of the equal sign, 3 is on the other. If you were to graph that, put a point on 3, and then draw a line through that point, you'll see it's an undefined slope. Do you guys see that? Okay. Standard form, all right? When we talk about standard form, what does standard form look like? AX plus BY equals C. What is A always? It's always what? Positive, okay? If it's not, right? Say you get this in standard form. I have negative 2x minus 4 equals 8y. Right? I want to put this in standard form. So I'll keep the 2x here. Then what do I do with the 8y? Bring it over here. Move the 4 over. Because it has to go x, then y, then the constant. But x isn't positive, so what should I do? Divide or multiply everything by -1. Just change all the signs. If you have a fraction, how would you get rid of a fraction? Let me give an example. Hold on. What about if I have... We just did all the signs together. Yeah, did I not? Yeah. I was thinking about what I was going to do next. Hold on. Okay, I want this in standard form. A couple ways you could do this. You want to get rid of the fraction first? Get rid of the fraction first. You want to get it x, then y, then constant? Do that. But how would I get rid of the fraction in this? lovely example I just made. What's a common denominator going to be between 5, 1, and 3? 15. Okay, so you're going to multiply the entire thing by 15. So when I do this, what do I get? 9y equals 75x plus 10. Right? Are we in standard form yet? No, the 75's got to come over here, right? So I have negative 75x plus 9y equals 10. Standard form yet? What do I have to do? Okay, 75x minus 9y equals negative 10. You understand that? Okay, just make sure. You guys can graph lines. Not concerned with that. All right, what is the difference slope-wise with parallel and perpendicular lines? Parallel lines have same slope, good, and perpendicular have opposite reciprocal. Okay, I'm going to make up a problem right now. I have absolutely no idea how it's going to turn out, so just bear with me. It might be gross. I have a point 2, I don't know, 5, and I have the point negative 3, 7. All right, I want an equation of the line that is perpendicular to 2x plus 3y equals 6. No. I'm thinking, I just combined two problems in one. Let's write the equation of the line for this. How can I do that? Okay, find the slope first. That's the most important, right? I'm going to go ahead and write the points on top of each other because then we don't make mistakes. Here's my x, here's my y. So if I started off saying 7 minus 5, you guys good with that? So then what goes on the bottom? If I start off with 7 in my y, what do I have to start off with x in my denominator? Negative 3 minus 2. So I have 2 over negative 5. You guys with me? Okay, so if I'm going to write the equation of a line, do I have to use one of these points in particular? Because some of you write the equation of a line, use this point, and some of you use the equation of a line and use this point and get the same answer. Yes, because think about it, guys, they're on the same line. So it doesn't matter. When you're given 2 points, you find the slope, and it says write the equation of the line. Whichever you want, does not matter. I'm going to choose 2 and 5. Why am I going to use 2, 5? Because they're both positive. Anything to make your life easier, do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start in point slope form. So y minus 5 equals negative 2/5 x minus 2. If I need to get this into slope intercept, what do? We're going to distribute. So y minus 5 equals negative 2/5 x plus 4/5. Yeah? And then add 5 to both sides. What's 5 over 1 become if I go into fourths? Or fifths, I'm sorry. God bless. 25? Yeah? So I have negative 2/5 x plus 29 over 5. All right, do I really want to graph this? No. But we're in slope intercept form, yeah? What about if I said to give me a line that is perpendicular? What would the perpendicular slope for this be? Positive 5 over 2. Remember, we reciprocal and negate opposite. Opposite sign and reciprocal, so we'd flip it. If I wanted to take this red line and I said, I want this, but I want it written in standard form. Put that into standard form for me. What am I going to multiply the whole thing by? 5. Why 5? We're going to get rid of denominators. So this leaves me with 5y equals negative 2x plus 29. Are we in standard form yet? No. This negative 2x comes over here. This becomes 2x plus 5y equals 29. You guys with me? So this and this and this are all the same line. You have to see what the question asks for. If it says write the equation in point slope form, it's choice A, or 1. If it says to write in slope intercept, it's here. If it says in standard form, it's here. Thank you. You guys have to be able to manipulate in between the different forms. You with me? All right, odd, even, either. In regards to symmetry and in regards to how to find out if something is odd, even, or neither. Miss Chris Weiser, Miss Ferrier, they use this version, which is totally fine. How did I tell you guys to do it? Okay, let's pick out any number and its exact opposite. We're going to do 23 and 24 the way that I showed you guys. So I first look at the highest exponent. What is the highest exponent here? 2. So my two choices, or this could either be an even function or neither. All right, so if it's even, when I evaluate, what are my answers going to be of each other? Same or opposite? Same. If you have an even function, it's symmetric to the y. The y-axis cuts it in half. It makes it the same on the left-hand side and the right. So you pick any number bigger than 1 and its exact opposite. Let's do 3 and negative 3. You want to do 2 and negative 2, do that. So I have 3 squared plus 4. 3 squared is 9 plus 4 is 13, okay? Over here, I'm going to plug in negative 3, square it, and add 4. What's negative 3 squared? 9 plus 4 is 13. Is 13 the same as 13? Yes. So you proved that this was even. And even functions have symmetry in regards to the y-axis. What does that mean? It cuts the function in half. Vertically. It's even. It's the same on one side and the other of the y-axis. Does that make sense? So if you come to this one and I say, okay, what's the highest exponent I see? A 3. Well, what kind of a number is 3? So this is either odd or neither. So if I have an odd function, my answers are what of each other? Opposites. The directions of the arrows are in opposite directions. So let's do 2 and negative 2. Be careful, guys, when you have negatives. You got to be careful with this. So I'm going to say 2 cubed minus 2. What's 2 cubed? And 8 minus 2 is, okay? Negative 2 cubed minus negative 2. Negative 2 cubed is negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Are those two exact opposites of each other? Yes. So then you proved it was odd. And an odd function has symmetry in regards to the origin. Think about O and O. Say you plug 2 and negative 2, 3, negative 3, and the answers are not exactly the same, and they're not exact opposites of each other. What's your answer? Neither. Everybody with me? All right, what about if I'm making up a random problem? Evaluate, what does that mean? Solve. How do I solve it? What do they want me to do? Plug in 2 for where? All the x's, okay? It's a basic algebra problem. So 2, and then I have cube minus 4 times 2 plus 1. What do we evaluate first? Yep, so 2 cubed is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16. Minus 8 plus 1 was 16 minus 8. Plus 1 is, there you go. So G of 2 equals 9. Make sense? Okay. Okay, so for like this, where it says like find f of 3, f of 4. Okay, so f of 3 and f of 4. That's what they want to know, what the value is of the function at that point. This is, you use these parameters here. 3. Where does 3 fall? Is 3 less than or equal to 3, or is 3 greater than 3? So then I plug 3 into this equation. So then I say 4. Well, where does 4 fall? Is 4 less than or equal to 3, or is 4 greater than 3? So then that's why I use the bottom one. It's depending upon where they fall. Yeah. Good question. There might be a couple.
When you do the domain problem, will there only be like one answer for domain?
What do you?
Because like for these, since it starts at the -6.
But yeah, if there's breaks and stuff in it, then yeah, like there could be breaks.
Was there not breaks here?
For what number is that?
Number 26.
26. Intervals of increase, decrease, and constant. Intervals of increase, decrease, and constant. Okay, when we're talking about intervals of increase, decrease, and constant, where do we look? Left to right. X-axis only. Left to right. Good. Increase means the graph is doing what? Going what direction? Up. From left to right, follow it. Decrease means the function is doing what? Down. Constant means the function is doing what? Staying the same. Okay? How do we read domain? This is the x-axis. A-X-I-S. Left to right, right? And then how do we read range? Bottom to top, low to high, however you want to say it. You guys with me on that? What does it mean if you have a function and there's this at the end? Goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, right? If we have infinity for a domain or a range or anything like that, what goes in the end of infinities? Parentheses. My gosh, you guys are so smart. All right, I have a question like this. What does it mean to set it equal to 0 and solve? 95% of the time you're going to have to factor. It always happens. So if I set this equal to 0 and solve, 10x squared minus x minus 3 over 15x equals 0. How do you solve this? First of all, we get rid of the what? Denominator, okay? So I'm going to multiply this side by 15x and this side by 15x. It's the fanciest 15 I've ever written. So 15x cancels here, right? 10x squared minus x minus 3 equals, what's 15x times 0? Just 0. So now I'm going to try and factor this. Hopefully it does work. I have factors of negative 30. What are the factors of negative 30? That'll multiply to give me negative 30, but adds to give me a negative 1. X minus 6 and x plus 5. Here's the benefit, guys, of a multiple choice test. Because some of you are still forgetting that your A term is not 1. So you would tell me x equals 6 and x equals negative 5. Is that right? No, that is not correct. My A term is 10. So I need to divide both of these by what? 10. So this becomes x minus 3/5. Yeah? Yeah. And this, if I divide both by 2? And this becomes plus 1/2? Yeah. So you could solve from here if you wanted to. X is 3/5 and x is negative 1/2. Or you could bring this up here and say I have 5x minus 3 and I have 2x plus 1 and then set equal to 0. Same thing. But just understand, if that A term is not 1, what happens if you have 4 terms and you're trying to find the zeros? Group it? Okay, good. Good, good, good. All right. Do you guys have any questions? No questions?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do 25?
Sure. All right, so if we go back to 26, are there any breaks? Because look, do you see how right here, if you look at the increasing part of the function, right, there's an open circle, but on that same x value, right above it, there's a closed circle. So there's no breaks in there, it's still included. If you look left to right, there are no places where the x-axis does not satisfy some piece of that graph. Same thing, yep. If I go here, there's no place where there's like a definite break in the action. So if there was like here, look, say it went like this. Do you see how there's a definite area, like right here, where there's no x values being used? That's where you'd have a union. So it would go from negative, what is that, negative 7 to negative 2, u, and then wherever I picked it up, it was right there, 0 to, yeah.
Oh, so if they're like over the dot
If they're on top of each other, then yeah, one of them is, yeah.
So then after the vacuum,
No, it would just be from zero. Do you have a question? Or? Okay, give me 1 sec. So it'd go like, say, like, do you see how this one is closed and this one's open? So it would be from here to here.
oh, so
There's not another gap.
so it'll be from what, 1 to
7 or 8, whatever that is.
okay.
Question. One more time.
Why is the range in -1?
Oh, because this dot's open? Okay, so think about this. That dot is open, agreed. This one is open, agreed. But what's all along here? Those are all dots, right? It's included on that part because those dots are actually there on that line. They're just non-existent here and here, which is going to affect your x. But if you have a solid piece of a graph, that is considered a closed dot because a line or your graph is just made of a whole bunch of solid dots all the way through. I mean, you could have like, say this went down to here, right? So the lowest point on this graph would be right here. It'd be -3, but it wouldn't be included because the dot's open.
So aren't those dots also open?
What I just drew. Do you see how there's nothing? There is absolutely nothing right here other than that open circle. So that's why that's not included. Here, there's an open circle, but then there's a whole piece of a line that is visible. That's why that's included. Yeah.
Oh, so if there's like a solid dot and an open one, the solid like always overrides.
Supersedes. Yep. Yeah. Good. Sure.
So let's say that middle part just wasn't there. So then we would just go from -3.
Like if this was like this.
No, that was just a non-existent.
Right. Yeah. I was trying to.
So then,
I used the wrong writing tool. Hang on. Like this.
yeah, so we just start at -3, right?
Yep.
-3 to -3.
Yep.
And that'll be it?
Yep.